Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of That's on Matthew. Today, I am so excited because I have the one, the only, the DJ Bob.
Hey! How are you?
I am amazing. I am so excited because this movie, well, honestly, I need to be honest. I had not seen this movie in like forever. And when you said that you wanted to do this movie, I was like, okay, like I wasn't like too excited, I guess, but I should have been way more excited.
Yeah, it's a special movie. For me, just because it's so of the time. It's not a fairy tale story. It's not another type of Disney trope that they always do. It's just a father-son story with pop music and relationships and animatronics gone bad at an amusement park. It's perfect. It's a perfect film.
No, it really is. I was so like into it, like right as soon as it started, like the soundtrack, which we'll definitely be talking about, is like amazing.
I know. I love it.
It like you said, it's a sign of the times, like the 90s. You can tell that this is a 90s film, but in all of the best ways.
My favorite thing about this film, and I'll send you the link so you can put it in like the show notes or
Totally.
something. And it's a behind the scenes video of how the movie was made.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a whole 30-minute special. And you can't get more 90s than that because it's hosted by the girl that plays like the valedictorian at the beginning, where the girl that's like, you need to talk to this, it's like Roxanne's friend or whatever, and it's her going around the animation studio like, so this is what this person does, and it's super 90s and super kitschy, but it's so fun.
I always love those like weird behind the scenes specials that you're like talking about, because I feel like they're so funny, because I can exactly like picture multiple of them where it's just a girl walking around being like, and this person does this and this person does that.
Yeah, you definitely get that with this.
Well, I'm very glad because this movie is so 90s, and it also is just like a fun time. Like it's really, I hate to be that person, but it's goofy. It's just
Oh, it's
silly.
totally goofy.
It's also Goofy is probably like my favorite of like the main characters.
Yeah, the Fab Three. Yeah,
I don't really know.
Mickey,
I don't know,
Donald,
like,
and
I don't know
Mickey,
who
Donald, and Goofy.
counts.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I really have no idea, but because that's not my expertise. I would say I'm definitely more expertise than Looney Tunes now. But yeah, it's amazing. It is a work of art. And so that's why we have Bob here today.
Yeah, and if I could tell my personal attachment to this film,
Go for it.
this was something where, um, in the early 2000s, probably 1999 or no, 2000, because it was when the sequel came out, an extremely goofy movie, and I was obsessed with that. And I went to the video store and I realized, wait, there was a first one. Um, and I wore that tape out. Poor video store owner guy for having to get a new copy. But I devoured this film. And, as a kid, you don't really realize the adult themes within it. Like, it's very goofy, as you said, but there's some moments where it's like, this is some heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Like the whole father-son dynamic, which we'll get into. But yeah, this movie means a lot to me. And after Perks, I kind of want to give you something a little lighter. So let's have fun.
Yeah, no. May is, I'm calling it just like a fun month. Like we've got Cheaper by the Dozens, the new one, and the 2003 version, Mulan, this movie. So I feel like we're just in for like a more calm month after Twilight month, which, as much as I loved Twilight month, it's just a very more serious movie series. It's way more adult than like most of the stuff I've ever covered on the podcast, you know?
And I feel like Perks was a good preamble to that sort
It
of.
really was. I feel like, and it's
And
also just an amazing movie.
I didn't do that on purpose either.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't even know what was coming when we did Perks, but I feel like it was like a,
but yeah, this is a nice palate cleanser, and I'm so excited to talk about it.
yeah, let's honestly get into it.
Yeah,
It's a Goofy movie, so who would we be if we didn't start with talking about Goofy? He has always been like my favorite, like ever since I was a child. But in this movie, I feel like it just more solidified the fact that he's my favorite. Like
he's
seeing
awesome.
this dad aspect of Goofy is always
Yeah,
great.
and what I love about this version of Goofy is that he's just trying to connect with his son, get through to his son, and he's trying all the stereotypical things to be a good dad because he knows that he can't give everything, so he tries everything, and sometimes it doesn't work out for him, but you get to see the deepness of the Goofy character.
Yeah, I think that that's like something that we don't see in like any other thing where Goofy's there, you
Yeah,
know? We're like actually getting some development from him, like some actual plot. Like I'm kind of here for it.
yeah.
And he also works at like a photo studio at a mall, so like obviously 10 out of 10.
Can I give you a little preface as to why this movie came about?
Totally. You're the pop culture dude here.
So for context, this movie was based on a series called Goof Troop,
Mm-hmm.
and Goof Troop was a series about Max as a 12-year-old kid bonding with his dad. So this movie takes place years later when he's in high school, and that's sort of the preface for it. So this movie didn't really come out of nowhere. It just was an extension of the already popular television show from earlier in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even know that, so that
Watch
tells
it.
you.
You should watch it on Disney Plus. It's there.
Oh, it's there? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Like, I feel like that's the best part. Like now with Disney Plus, whenever like something like that is brought up in conversation, it's like I can just so quickly just add it to my list on Disney Plus and check it out. Like that's kind of like the best part about Disney Plus because
Yeah.
I started this podcast before Disney Plus was a thing, and let me tell you, it was not a fun time sometimes.
Oh yeah. So back to Goofy at the photo store. I love that bit where he's trying to get the baby to take a picture. I love that little fun side of him. I
I love the
love that.
entirety of just how silly he is. And like the dad dynamic, he just reminds me of like one of those really silly dads who just are constantly like making dad jokes and trying to be like hip with the kids, I guess.
Yeah.
I kind of just I love every second of it.
Yeah, I mean I love him in this film.
Yeah, he also in this film just kind of has this like extra quirkiness, I feel like,
Yeah.
that we don't also see anywhere else, which I guess sounds stupid, but like it's just you finally get to see like more of Goofy.
And this film was directed by Kevin Lima, who later went on to direct Tarzan and Enchanted, but this is his first like major film with the studio, and I think it's a perfect start.
Yeah, like it just is so fun. He also just like he's trying to like not make his son into like what's the best word, like a delinquent, I guess.
I love that whole scene, and we're not going into plot, but I love that whole scene where it's like the electric chair. Like he's so afraid of all these possible things that could happen to him, so he has to not be goofy and try to be assertive and um sort of a father, but then he realizes that he isn't that, and we see that realization happen.
Yeah, I mean, he's like trying to like keep his son in being like a good, decent kid. And so then that's why they take the road trip to Idaho, which is always like, I feel like that's just like the prime summer destination, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. So Lex, you know, what do we think about Mac? Because the kid package duo.
I, okay, kind of love Max too. He's definitely just different than like myself. I feel like we know he's like trying to like be a little bit of like a little teenage angst vibe, I guess.
Oh yeah.
He's in his teenage years, and as much as that like is funny to me, I still love him. Like he's just this funny. Like this movie was way more funny than I remember it to be. But like I don't know if it's because I'm more grown up. I'm watching this
No, it's
into
so
like
good. It's so good.
all this like it's just there's so many different factors. He also has a love interest in this movie, which is
Roxanne. Yeah.
so funny to me. I don't know why. I just think it's like the growing up with the age
And
kind of.
and it's funny too because there was a movie later in 2004 called Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas,
Hmm.
and there's a whole vignette about Max having a different love interest there, and I'm like, wait, what happened to Roxanne?
Yeah, did she just like disappear? She wanted
Yeah,
out, maybe. I don't know.
give me some plot, give me some explanation. No, but Max is super great, and one of the things I want to make sure we bring up, and it's sort of a secondary character at this point, Powerline.
I mean, how can we not talk about Powerline?
And Powerline is he's sort of based on Michael Jackson and Prince.
Yeah, definitely. I could definitely tell. Like I kind of love the vibe though. Like it's
It's,
just 90s.
I love it, and I can tell you that they were trying to get, I think, Michael to do Powerline songs for this movie, but he wouldn't do it, so they went and got Tevin Campbell, who worked with Prince when he was a little kid, so they kind of had that little synergy there. But the music is so good.
Yeah. And the music I think is like the added like cherry on top of this
Oh yeah.
movie.
So the reason why I'm bringing up Powerline now is the talent or the when he the last day of school that performance,
Yeah.
and that's iconic. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, Powerline is just kind of like my also other favorite. Like I feel like everyone's just a favorite in this movie, but just like how can you not love like a famous 90s pop star with some amazing songs?
Oh yeah, as the kids say, it slaps.
It
Um,
slaps. No, I agree. It does. And I think that this is just like the perfect character for this movie.
yeah, I love Powerline.
Pete.
People co-
What do we
people
think of
co-
Pete?
But one quick thing,
Yeah.
People compare Bruno Mars to Powerline a lot, which I find really funny.
I'm not sure I see it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But yeah, Pete is trying to be a good dad. He's literally just like doing all. He's like the dad of the year type.
Yeah.
And poor PJ is just like, I don't want to do this, man. Um, yeah, Pete. How do you feel about him?
I think that he's just a funny guy. Like Pete, I feel like I've never really seen much of him like outside of like the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse where he's the villain.
Oh yeah, well he was great in another movie from like 2004, uh, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, the Three Musketeers. Um, he was great in that. Yeah, but I generally see him in Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and some of the early shorts from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. But yeah, he really shines in this film.
Yeah. I think that like Goofy giving him advice is kind of like a funny aspect too, because I feel like you would think it'd be the other way around almost.
It's like of all people, yeah.
And I think that just the dynamic that they have, like he like has with the family, like being like the neighbor, I think like adds like an interesting like dynamic relationship that like I don't think we've really seen in a while, or at least in a movie on this podcast, like the whole neighbor vibe. But it like I just kind of love it.
Yeah, I love it too.
I also think that like Pete is just a silly character, but he doesn't like portray like where he's like a main like I don't want to say
Yeah,
like a nuance, but like
he's not like the comedy. He's not the comic relief.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'll wait till the phone stops ringing. That's a good edit point. There you go. Yeah, I love Pete.
Yeah. I also love Pete. I mean, I honestly don't know how you couldn't love Pete. Roxanne. Roxanne, love interest. We've kind of already brought her up, but like thoughts on Roxanne.
Well, you know, she's a typical high school girl. I mean, with feeling and with uh, with motives, and I honestly don't think she knows what she wants.
You know, I feel the same way. I feel like I relate to her in that way. Like, I don't know what I really want, like, out of life. And I feel like that's definitely what is going on in this movie. She's like also in his dream in the beginning, but then like they actually end up starting to have feelings, which I think is really funny.
Yeah, I mean, I just love how Disney Disney has a real life love interest. This is not a princess. This is not. This is just two high schoolers in love, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, you're so right. I feel like this is an interesting dynamic for Disney in their relationship department.
Yeah, I love it. I
I
love
do too. I
Roxanne.
love taking risks. And I think that
Yeah,
Disney took, I would say that they actually took a fair amount of risks with this movie.
yeah, they totally did. I mean, it's such a fun film, but it also has a lot of like relatable content for um kids and adults,
Yeah. I,
and we'll get into that a little bit. But
yeah. PJ, Pete's son.
I love PJ. I love PJ. Can we also talk about how good the food looked in this movie?
That is a weird point, but I kind of love it because I do agree. I think that the animation in general in this movie is like on point.
Like, I know that sounds really weird, but like, there's this one shot where he's holding a pizza slice, and you're like, "Ooh, that looks good." You're like, they really took time on that pizza there. It's like, oh my god, that's so funny. But yeah, I love PJ. I love how um yopey and dopey he is, but he's also just a cool dude. And the guy that plays him, Rob Paulsen, um, is a very famous voice actor. He's been on Animaniacs and Jimmy Neutron and all these shows for. If you've watched TV over the past 20 or so years, or even longer, he's been a part of something you know.
Yeah.
Shout out to Rob. Um, I don't know Rob, but we love you.
Wait, no, how can you not? Like, And PJ just like is I think is probably very good like comic relief in the movie.
I love him, but the other comic relief character that I want to talk about is Bobby.
I mean, how can you just not talk about Bobby? Well, one, because you're Bob, but like two, because who just doesn't love another good friend? Like the trio in this movie.
Talk to me, baby. He's like, where did you come from? But I love you.
Where did you
Um, it's a very subtle thing, but it's great. But yeah, there's Bobby. Like it's just basically it's such a good core cast. But yeah, those are my thoughts on some of the characters and other fun stuff.
you really came prepared. You came way more prepared than I'm prepared. I love it.
Well,
This
look
is
at
your
me.
movie.
Well, you gotta stand out above the crowd.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Even if I got okay, never mind.
Um, honestly, let's dive into the plot.
Yes.
All right, here we go. We start off with kind of establishing that Goofy is a single father, and we've got Max, his son, and they don't have a very great relationship. I would say they kind of have like just a rough overall relationship.
Yeah, they totally do. And let me tell you why I think that is. Cause well, Goofy is Goofy, and what worked for Max as a kid doesn't necessarily work now as a teenager, and it's sort of that rebellious teen thing, but it's heightened because he doesn't want that goofy, fun side of his dad anymore. He just wants his dad to care.
Yeah, I think that that's like a good point. Like, not even outside of this movie, like with parenting, like I feel like as a teenager, like I feel like as we get older, I can confidently say that there's just been moments where I'm just like embarrassed of like how my parents act, like I'm still like a child in that way. Like I don't think it's intentional. Like it's like you're kind of just growing up, and I feel like that's kind of like a big thing.
Yeah.
And this is very prevalent in this movie. Like he's kind of just embarrassed of his dad acting like this.
So basically, he wants to rebel. Like, he wants to rebel. So he goes on the last day of school and does a little tribute to his favorite pop star, Powerline, gets in trouble, gets a phone call, or Goofy gets a phone call and realizes, I have to man up and I have to help my son, like, get back on track. So they plot this road trip, but Max has other ideas.
Wait, did no, you kind of cut out for a second?
Alright, see, this is good why I'm recording my end.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like, so, so he plots his road trip to bond with Max, but, Max has other ideas when he hears about this road trip.
Yeah. I mean, road trips, I've actually never been on a road trip. I feel like that makes me like I'm missing out, but I just have never been on a road
I
trip.
haven't either. I should though. But
I
yeah,
should go on a road trip. I should just hit the
you
road
should
this
go.
summer.
You should go with me.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's schedule it right on a podcast. Um, yeah, but like when you heard about the road trip and what Peach wanted Goofy to do, what did you think?
I thought that like, how is this really gonna help? I don't know. I feel like if I was being rebellious, I'm not sure a road trip would like get me back on track.
Yeah,
I don't know about you. I don't know if you were rebellious in your younger years.
I I did think, um, I it's like at some point you want to be rebellious and you want to be cool and away from your parents, and especially me because of how physical disabilities are.
Yeah.
You just want a moment to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of sometimes I was like, come on, I just want me, you know? It's like, but now I appreciate my parents a lot more
I
for
feel
what
like
they
that's
did.
something that like happens like in time too. I feel like once you get past like this little thing where like you're always constantly mad at your parents, you kind of just grow to appreciate them a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you gotta give your parents credit because look what all they're going through just to keep a roof under your head.
Yeah,
And
that's something that I don't think that Max really sees. He's just kind of like I say this in almost every single episode because it applies at least once. The teen angst.
you know what? He's living in the now and not looking at the bigger picture. And I think that's a part of his problem.
Yeah. I actually really like that. Wisdom from DJ Bob.
Yeah, get
Um,
myself get my self-help book coming 2025.
can't
Um,
wait. We also have Roxanne. And so this whole thing with Roxanne that's going on is he's gonna go on a date with her, but now with this road trip, he's like really nervous that like to cancel this date and then
shall we pluck? He goes, I'm gonna be on stage with Powerline and all this stuff, and then
lying is never is not always is not a good idea.
oh yeah, I have my fair share of that. I got a teenager. Um, but you learn and you grow and uh you don't do it again. Boy,
Yeah, I think that like in this movie specifically, it just kind of shows like a lot of different parts of being a teenager, just like not appreciating your parents, lying, relationships, but like in a cute, fun, digestible way.
yeah. And I would have. This is a movie that I would have loved to see. Would have loved to have seen in theaters.
Yeah.
I never got. Well, I was only a couple months old when this was released, so I never got to see it alongside everyone. But again, it's just the best way to describe it. And I can't believe I never said it earlier. It's a breezy movie.
I like that. It's a breezy movie.
Like it just breezes by. Like there's plot, but you're just so invested that it goes by so quick.
Yeah, I don't think that it's like it wasn't a hard watch at all. Like it was a fun, easy, breezy, I guess you could say, watch.
I knew you would love it, so that's why I gave it to you.
Yeah.
But
Goofy still's gonna go on the trip though. So I feel like now Max is like all upset. And then they go to the little theme park based off of possums. I hate possums, fun fact.
oh yeah, wait. Before we even get there, can we talk about the first musical number on the open road? Cause that scene in the car with all those chorus members.
It's iconic, is what it is.
I mean, even before that, you had After Today. But every musical is a Broadway showstopper. But that one, like, is so much going on.
I didn't like really remember this being a musical at all, but I was like pleasantly surprised and obviously loving it.
I love all the music in this movie, and I love the Powerline stuff. But yeah, I mean, so then you go to Lester, Lester's Possum Park, because that's what Goofy did as a kid, and it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
I mean, I would definitely hate it because I just don't like possums.
And not to mention the animatronics breakdown.
It's very much like Five Nights at Freddy's.
Pre Five Nights at Freddy's, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't really know that much about Five Nights at Freddy's. All I know is that it's scary stuff like that.
So when you saw that scene, were you like, what did Bob make me watch?
Slightly. I was like, I don't remember this. I feel like I should have remembered that, but I was like, I don't remember this the first time around.
Oh my god. Well, I that scene is so bad that it's good.
Yeah. It was just a good time. Like, yeah, sure, it's silly, funny, slightly traumatizing for some, probably. It's fun. I think it's fun.
Yeah, it is. Another scene that I want to bring up is when it's like the fishing trip and he's like, I'm not a little kid anymore. I have a life now, and Goofy's like, I know, I just wanted to be a part of it. You're like, oh.
No, it's really like it's an emotional film at some points. Like the whole like he just wants to be a part of his life. Like I feel like that's just like every teenage parent. Like they just want to have like that part of their in their child's life and they don't want to be left out. So like I feel like you said, this is like an important message, you know?
Yeah, and for the record, when you're done listening to the podcast, if you have if you're lucky enough to have both of your parents, hug them
Yeah.
because life is short, especially nowadays, and just do it.
It's true. I feel like even like as the person who's offering this advice, I can even vouch that it's just important. It's just an easy thing. It's an important thing to do to show your parents that you're still here. You're still their child, you know?
And I say that not to sound preachy, but like this movie just really brought it home for me. Like, oh, sometimes we do forget.
Yeah, we do. And I think that it's important to not forget. And I feel like if we have our Matthew Bob heart to heart moment with the listeners on today's podcast, it's just appreciate your parents more.
I yeah. So this whole side plot of appreciating your parents is great because that's such a weightier topic than any other Disney movie at the time that I saw. And how do you feel about like the whole fishing trip thing, and then nobody else but you?
Well, I thought that the fishing trip like was like obviously an adorable, very like needed like heart to heart scene, but it also is just like it adds on to like the father son dynamic after like the theme park a little bit more, and it just kind of brings the movie together, and we still have so much more of the movie left, but it still felt like it was coming together.
Yeah, the other thing that I want to talk about, because this leads to an important part of the movie, is the map.
Ah, the map. Barry Max was he was taking risks, altering the map.
And were you expecting that?
I mean, I feel like I slightly remembered something about that, but it is truthfully different than what I was anticipating. But I kind of loved it in a weird way because it was kind of like rebelling more. I mean, do I think he should have done it? Nah, arguable. He did anyways.
Yeah, and I think cause my favorite line from Pete, and I say it all the time. Check the map, goof.
That was iconic. Like absolutely iconic. And I also think that it's just like the whole thing with the map, like the concert is happening, and so then he like redoes the map, like rebellious teen era for Max. Um, so then the next day or so, Goofy's like, "You're now the navigator of the trip."
Oh yeah, right.
Which, why, Goofy, is the question. Why would you do that?
Because isn't that when Pete and Goofy talk the
Yeah,
night before? Yeah.
it's just cute. I think like that's just like I feel like I should have like more words to describe this movie, but it is just cute.
No, it's just it's it's perfect.
Yeah, I just absolutely love it. And now I feel like they're kind of like trying to like settle with a healthy medium, but then they meet up with Pete and PJ again, and then um Pete like overhears this conversation and is like, "Hey Goofy, Max like tricked you."
And then check the map.
Yeah. I think it's like kind of like weirdly like the fact that like he gets angry with the whole thing, but then he like doesn't have the brake, so then the car moves and then they have to like chase it down and then they end in a river. And then they have this moment where he's like, "You'll always be my son no matter how old you are." Then they finally like have some happiness between the two of them for like the first time this entire movie,
Yeah.
which is it's
'Cause
it's a touching scene.
one of the things I noticed as I watched it is like at some point in this movie, Goofy just stops trying.
Yeah.
And that's in everything. Sometimes you try so hard to be the best parent or the best boyfriend or the best girlfriend. And like, just be yourself. Like, and I feel like that's what Goofy was trying to do. But when they made a compromise, it made it a better trip, and it made Max appreciate his dad more.
Yeah. And I was honestly like, how is this gonna do anything? How is this trip gonna do anything? And it did.
So the other thing that I want to make sure we bring up, like I have a lot of funny moments, but I want to make sure we do the plot stuff, is the power line concert.
Yeah, we can't forget about that. So they make it to the concert after like almost dying in a waterfall.
Yeah.
Can't forget about that. They try to sneak backstage because I feel like that's like just like a Goofy and Max thing to do.
And then isn't it that Goofy goes up on the hydraulic thing?
Yeah, they somehow end up on the stage, and then Pete, PJ, and Roxanne are all there and they're watching. Like they're not all there, but like they're watching this all unfold.
And then they go on stage and they sing Eye to Eye with Powerline, and that wraps up the movie. And then we cut to Max and Goofy at home, and I believe he goes over to Roxanne's place again, and they make plans for a date or something, and then that wraps up the film.
Yeah, I think that it's a cute, fun
Can we talk
movie.
about can we talk about Roxanne's father for a second?
It's kind of funny. I don't know why. Roxanne's
He
father is.
he terrified me. Like
It was
he,
a it was a weird departure, I guess,
I was
from
like
what I was thinking that.
he's like this gruff biker dude, and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, we have Roxanne who's like this sweet little nice shy, and then you have the father who's like this giant like biker dude, like you said.
It's hilarious. It's so good. And then like, what surprised you most about this film.
That I enjoyed it so much. Probably is like the most simple answer because like yeah, I'd seen it before. Yeah, I knew a little bit about it, but like just going back through it and watching it like after watching Twilight movies for the past month for the podcast, I loved it.
Yeah, and a musical number that I forgot to bring up was After Today, and that was the first musical number that we saw when Max gets out of school for the first time. And that is a great song and a great opener to this film.
I think this might be an unpopular opinion, but it's probably one of my favorites in the whole movie.
Oh yeah. Now, what was your least favorite song?
Mm, what was yours?
Um, Lester's Possum Park.
I was actually gonna say that. I would say that the Possum Park one was just not my fave. Like they're all like good in their own ways, but like that's just probably the
Well,
the weaker one for me.
that's definitely parodying like theme park music. Like that's very like I love it, but yeah, and I love Nobody Else But You and Eye to Eye and Stand Out and On the Open Road. Another scene that I love is when they can't decide what music to play. So Goofy's playing High Hopes, and then Max is playing this thrash heavy metal, and then the radio breaks.
Um, I think that like the whole like trope of the music in this movie is like 10 out of 10.
Oh yeah, we love it. So yeah, I'm so glad that I chose this for you.
Yeah. Thank you for picking this movie because I think that this was perfect for
Yeah.
today. But we can't forget we have to rate it. So
Oh,
uh, I'm gonna have to go with like a 9 out of 10.
yeah, I was gonna go 9.
It's cute, it's fun, it's an easy, quick, fun watch. I'm obsessed.
Me too. It's such a special film because, like you said, it took lots of risks, and um it felt different for the net for the studio. I mean, this was one of the movies that was uh, animated half in Florida and half in California.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this was when uh, Walt Disney World had the animation building, and yeah, it's such a special film for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And you gotta watch the sequel now.
No, no, I do. I gotta watch the sequel. That's gonna be on my spring break watch list for sure.
I feel like Max like skateboards in this one, and Goofy goes to college. Like it's so weird.
The sequel?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm excited.
it's been a while, but yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 for me as well. Thank you so much for picking it.
Of course, it's a movie that people don't look at that much, so I'm happy to show you.
Yeah, thank you. Where can my listeners check out your podcast and support all the content that you put out?
Well, like I always say, you can go to djbobshow.com and trust me, uh, we've got some great stuff coming up this summer. Uh, Matthew definitely knows because he's on the other end of it. He's working with me on some stuff periodically, and that's always fun. Um, but go to djbobshow.com, Facebook, The DJ Bob Show, Instagram, DJ Bob Show Podcast, Twitter, at The DJ Bob Show, or you can follow me at DJ Bob Runkle for all the pop culture isms you need in your life. um, Thank you so much for having me again. This has been great.
Yes, thank you for always coming back on the podcast. I feel like I can speak on behalf of the listeners that you're always a great time and always a great person to have on the show.
Well, when we talk, I know we're gonna learn something from each other, and it's such a good time.
It always is.
So thanks for having me.
Thank you. And as always, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all the places, even though I'm still locked out of my TikTok account, might I add.
Still?
I don't know. I think I'm just going to kind of give up.
On that note,
yeah, on that note, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. You can check out all my episodes wherever you get your podcasts, and check out my website, that'samatthew.com, for all the fun stuff on there. It's been a blast, and I will see everyone in another episode again soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.